Sejam todos muito bem-vindos para este encontro promovido pelo diretor do Rotary Internacional 2019-2021, Mário César Martins de Camargo, com o presidente de Rotary Internacional 2018-2019, Barry RASSIN, sobre o trabalho desenvolvido pelo Comitê Shaping Rotary's Future. Este encontro está sendo transmitido também ao vivo pelo Facebook através da página Ligados no Rotary, e a gravação estará disponível no YouTube, no canal Falando sobre Rotary. Neste evento, nós teremos a participação do rotaractiano RDR 2020-2021 do Distrito 4700, Ricardo QUEVEDO, e do interactiano Guilherme ISFER Garcia, do Distrito 4730, que farão a tradução simultânea do presidente Barry RASSIN através do sistema Closed Caption, ou é uma tradução em texto em forma de legenda. Então, para que todos possam ver a legenda, vocês precisam ir aí no seu Zoom. Quem estiver utilizando o computador, olha, no menu inferior tem um botão mostrado ali pela seta azul escrito transcrição ao vivo, e quem tiver a versão em inglês vai estar escrito Closed Caption. Vocês cliquem ali e depois, mostrado ali pela seta laranja, na opção mostrar a legenda. Lembrando que tanto o Ricardo QUEVEDO e o Guilherme ISFER são voluntários, não são profissionais, são companheiros que se dispuseram com as suas habilidades a participar aqui com a gente, ou seja, poderemos ter ali uma sequência de erros da datilografia e tal, mas isso faz parte. Mas agradecemos muito a presença tanto do Ricardo quanto do Guilherme para essa tradução, uma vez que essa sala de 1000 pessoas não tem a tradução simultânea. Nós teremos também, após a palestra do Barry RASSIN, ele estará à disposição por um breve tempo para perguntas dos participantes. Os interessados devem levantar a mão pelo aplicativo e terão no máximo 1 minuto para a sua pergunta. E como fazer para levantar a mão? Eu sei que a maioria já sabe, mas uma breve explicação. Na barra inferior aí do Zoom, para quem está num desktop, num notebook, ali na barra mostrada pela seta azul, tem um botão chamado Reações, que tem aquela carinha ali. Você clica nessa opção, vai aparecer uma nova janela mostrada pela seta vermelha, que tem a opção Levantar a Mão. Você clica nessa opção e ao lado do seu nome aparecerá uma mãozinha amarela, mostrando que você pediu a palavra, que você quer fazer uma pergunta de até 1 minuto. Sem discursos, uma pergunta breve e objetiva de no máximo 1 minuto. E para quem está utilizando um celular, um tablet, o princípio é o mesmo. Basta dar um toque na tela, vai aparecer o menu inferior mostrado pela seta azul, onde tem 3 pontinhos e está escrito mais. A hora que você clicar ali, vai aparecer mostrada pela seta laranja a opção levantar a mão ou raise hand na opção em inglês. E ao lado da sua imagem aparecerá a mãozinha amarela informando para o anfitrião, para o host, que você quer a palavra. E só assim, só com essa mãozinha ao lado do seu nome, o anfitrião consegue saber que você quer a palavra e assim lhe dar a palavra no momento oportuno. A partir desse momento, eu passo a palavra para o diretor Mário César, que conduzirá a reunião a partir de agora. É com você, diretor.
Meus queridos amigos do Rotary no Brasil, eu vou me permitir falar um pouco em inglês como uma deferência ao presidente Barry. Barry, President Barry does not need any introduction. Every Rotarian who has been involved with Rotary for the last 4, 5, 10 years knows Barry very well. He was the president of Rotary who taught us to be inspirational, to inspire people to do better things, to do better our jobs. But now, Barry, as a trustee and a past president of Rotary, has in his hands the chairmanship of the Shaping Rotary's Future Committee, which is a very forward-thinking committee in Rotary. He will explain to us what are some of the tendencies of the trends that the committee is examining for Rotary's future. He will also tell you that we are still in the discussion stage, that there is much to be learned, much to be taught, much to be discussed. And being a democratic person, as Barry is, he attended our calling to discuss some of the items of the committee amongst us Rotarians from Brazil. Barry, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. You know, we know you are a president open to debates and discussion and ideas, and I hope you get some positive feedback from the Rotarians in our zone. Back to Carlos. Or back to President Barry then, huh?
Great, thank you, Director Mario. I appreciate that introduction. So good to be with all my friends in Brazil. Always a pleasure to be with you. I wish it was in person because I know you always have a lot of fun when we're in person. Guy, are you doing this simultaneous or?
Yes, so Barry, tonight we have subtitle translation. You can speak a little bit slowly, and QUEVEDO will translate to you and will show up on the screen.
Okay, great. All right, well, as Mario said, this is not something that Rotary has come and said, this is what we're doing. What they're allowing the committee to continue to develop the details of the plan and go out to the Rotary world and tell you what we're doing and get your feedback, because this is major change, very significant. So we want to be sure that we're getting input from Rotarians and Rotaractors around the world. Now, what I'm going to do is to share my screen and show you some slides and go through this, showing some of the reasons why we think we need major change, and then show you what our current structure is, and then show you what the model is that we are recommending and that we want to pilot in certain regions of the world. So we've got a ways to go. A lot of people say, well, when do we start? This is long-term thinking, okay? I want you to realize this is going to take probably 3 council on legislations before we get it right. So a lot of work to do. So forgive me as I go through my slides with you. We all know that Rotary has been the premier service organization in the world for more than 100 years. The only way an organization like ours can continue to be relevant and impactful is by evolving to meet the needs of today's members and future generations of Rotarians and Rotaractors. To safeguard Rotary's future, we must continue to adapt while still providing a robust and fulfilling membership experience. Now, for the past several years, there has been a committee of members, including your own Marcelo Haik, who is, by the way, an outstanding member of our committee. I love listening to him because his ideas always are fresh, they're new, and they're very deep. I sometimes have to stop and think when Marcelo speaks, but that's good. That's what we need. He's doing a great job. The committee is dedicated to looking forward and to looking at Rotary's future. how we can engage current members while creating a membership experience that attracts new voices. Do our leadership roles provide enough value to our members? The answers to these questions and many more led to our committee to propose a new governance structure. And now, well, we'd like to get some of your thoughts. But the first thing to understand is that while the world today is not the same as it was when Rotary was founded in 1905, there are some things that we still should keep. We don't want to throw everything out. We want to be sure we keep who we are and what we do. Yes, demographics have shifted, the pace of change has accelerated, and technology has created new opportunities for connection and service. But what hasn't changed is a need for the values that define Rotary. Now, we know that fellowship is why our strong clubs do so well. We know that Bill Gates of the world give us significant amounts of money because of our integrity. We know that we must be diverse as an organization so that we represent every aspect of our communities. Most people know us by the service that we do. Many countries you go to, when they see a Rotary wheel, they smile because they know we give them hope with the work we do. And of course, our leadership in every club around the world, in every district, is known by so many. The communities look to us for leadership. One example is in the Bahamas, the government, in order to roll out the vaccines, asked Rotary to coordinate the effort to get the vaccine to the people. That's respect for who we are as an organization, and we should never lose that. By honoring our past and embracing our future, we can evolve and keep Rotary not only relevant, but thriving. Now, I want to begin by you asking yourself, if you were to create Rotary today, how would it be structured? Would you use the same governance model and the leadership roles that we currently have? Or would you develop something completely new? Chances are you would do things differently. And honestly, that's what many of our members around the world are telling us to do. They want to be part of an organization that is innovative and nimble, that offers clear paths to leadership and adapts to the evolving needs of members and the community. So in July of 2018, the Board of Directors tasked the Shaping Rotary's Future Committee with pushing forward by creating an organizational structure that attracts new participants, enhances the current membership experience, creates leadership roles that are doable and appealing, and improves our ability to adapt. Now, the proposed governance structure provides a more inclusive and equitable membership experience. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are important to current Rotarians and Rotaractors, and to those we hope will join Rotary in the coming years. With this in mind, we focused on making meaningful, doable jobs based on members and the clubs and what they need. We also looked at efficiently and effectively delivering value to our members and to our clubs. And you'll see with a couple of slides after this why that's so important. We also want to make sure we support Rotary's strategic initiatives and our goals. That means every club needs to be aware of what they are and how to support them. We want to focus more on the member experience. We've got to meet the expectations of every one of our members around the world. And we believe we need to streamline the organization to create an effective governance model. Flexibility must be important to us. And again, you'll see how we do that shortly. But we need to make sure that our structure can evolve as we grow over time. And that's something we haven't been able to do for many, many, many years in Rotary. So perhaps you're wondering why Rotary needs to change at all. In some parts of the world, membership is up, but member retention is down. The age of our members continues to grow. And we still struggle with this perception that Rotary is for certain people. This is compounded by the fact that we have yet to reach gender parity in membership and in leadership. In order to thrive, we must consider the needs of future generations. Because if we don't change as quickly as the world does, the Rotary we know today won't be around tomorrow. So let's start by looking at our current governance model. As you can see, it is hampered by layers of hierarchy and doesn't provide a clear path to leadership. And that hinders decision-making, and it limits the ability to have good communication from the clubs and the Rotarians and Rotaractors to the Rotary International Board of Directors. And what you don't see is that at the district level, there are 29 mandated positions, plus an additional 13 recommended roles. At the regional level, there are 200 regional leadership roles with an additional 547 assistant leader positions. Many of these positions are filled by appointment, and that means that some skilled, capable, and knowledgeable Rotarians don't have visibility or access to these leadership opportunities. And finally, Rotaract isn't even included in this model. They operate separately, even though we are all one organization. It's a missed opportunity to engage with our young leaders. So I would ask you to let's look at a few of the other challenges that Rotary faces. One of the biggest issues for Rotary is member engagement and retention. Global membership has decreased steadily over the past 5 years, and we've been talking about 1.2 million members for the last 20 years. No growth and a small decrease in membership. But guess what? In the last 10 years, more than 1.3 million members left our organization. In 10 years, more people left than are in the organization itself. That tells you we're really good at bringing in members, and we're really bad at keeping them. And a lot of that is we don't engage our members. We don't meet their expectations. They look around and they say, this isn't what I signed up for, so I'm going to find what I want to do somewhere else. We need to fix this. Now, we also talk about our diversity, and we started with females and gender diversity. Women have been a part of Rotary for more than 30 years, and yet only make up 24% of our global membership. Now, in some parts of the world, that percentage is higher, but many other countries are well below the average. We're seeing tremendous growth from 10 years ago, but if this trend continues, Rotary still won't achieve gender parity until the year 2050. Now, Rotaract, on the other hand, has already achieved gender parity with 51% of its global membership being women. You start to see why we need to elevate Rotaract. We can learn from them. They're doing so many things right. This isn't even a discussion for them. It's natural. It's organic. It's part of who they are as young professionals. We need to learn from them. Now, at the district level, many parts of the Rotary world continue to have leadership positions dominated by more experienced males. And less than 6% of district governors are younger than 60 years old. Now, I'm sure you all know, I'm a lot older than 60, and I still consider myself valuable in Rotary. I am not going to stop that, okay? I'm way past 60. But we need younger and a balance with younger members in our leadership roles. Like our global membership, less than 25% of women serve in regional or district leadership roles. And when we look at regional leadership specifically, 33% of our public image coordinators are women. But until last Rotary year, a public image coordinator was the only regional leader position that didn't require members to be a past district governor. That sends a message to us. Public image coordinators are generally comprised of more women than other positions, and keep that in mind. It does not require you to be a past district governor. Are we too stringent with our rules that only past district governors can move up in the organization to other positions? This is an example of a barrier to leadership. Requiring a member to serve as a PDG before they can be a regional leader may limit their growth opportunities. When we prioritize the Rotary resume over professional experience and personal goals, it rewards those who have been members longer without considering their knowledge or their abilities. Now, I understand the appreciation and the respect for seniority, but we need a better balance so that we don't only have 6% of the DGs around the world under 60. So let's look at the future of Rotary as we think should be considered. Now, you remember our current governance model that I showed you earlier. Instead of this, we are proposing something new. Members will continue to belong to a Rotary or a Rotaract club, and clubs will remain unchanged, though they will be grouped into sections, with a section leader providing guidance and motivation. Keep that in mind, guidance and motivation. Districts will be restructured into regions that are governed locally by a regional council. And finally, of course, there's the board of directors and the trustees, along with a newly created global cadre of experts to help our members, our clubs, and our regional councils. Each member, Rotarians and Rotaractors within a region, can apply to and elect, keyword, elect their regional council representatives and section leaders. So let's take a closer look at each of these levels of the governance structure, starting with the global level. The Rotary International Board and the trustees will not change. However, in addition, there will be a global cadre. These leaders will provide expertise on specific topics that represent core functions of a club. Their expertise may originate from their Rotary experience or their professional lives, both of which will be actively solicited and valued. These experts are resources who can help our clubs achieve their goals. Now, unlike regional leaders, the cadre is not expected to communicate with districts or clubs unless asked. They are trained and they are certified as experts, and they're internationally based, so they're closer to the regional boards, and they're available to every club and every regional council. Now, shifting to the regional level, we know what works in one part of the world doesn't necessarily work in another. Those clubs who share similar culture, language, and geography will be grouped into a region and governed by a regional council that will make decisions about club, member, and community needs in a more localized way. The regional council manages the day-to-day activities like assessing regional dues and creating committees, and supports the section leaders. We estimate there will be about 45 regions globally. Each regional council will have 12 elected positions who will be chosen by the Rotarians and Rotaractors within the region to serve a 3-year term. The regional council reports to the board of directors as a whole, not to an individual director, as we see with our current structure. This should free up the board to be more strategic in their thinking with its time and focus its duties as international directors and not as regional leaders. Rather than districts, Rotary and Rotaract clubs will be organized into sections and supported, not governed, by a section leader. Remember what I said earlier, they're there to guide and motivate the clubs. Based on the current amount of clubs in the world, there will be about 1,800 sections around the world, with 10 to 30 Rotary and Rotaract clubs per section. The number of sections per region will vary depending on volunteer population, language, and culture. Now, section leaders will lead, motivate, and inspire, that's a word I happen to like, a small set of clubs within a geographic area. Now, with fewer clubs to support, section leaders can concentrate their efforts on helping the clubs reach their goals. They will serve for 4 years, 2 years as the elect and 2 years as the section leader. Expanding leadership terms provides more consistent support and continuity for the clubs. And like the regional council, Rotarians and Rotaractors can apply to and elect their section leader. The section leader position is not replacing the district governor role. Instead, we're taking the best parts of the district governor position and dividing it so the administrative responsibilities transition to the regional council, while section leaders will take on the role of motivating and guiding the clubs. This division of responsibilities allows members to choose a leadership role that better aligns with their professional goals and their interests. And in that short time, that's it. By introducing a more streamlined governance structure, we can remove some layers of hierarchy, increase efficiency, and attract new voices into Rotary leadership. This change will benefit our organization and our members today, while also laying the foundation for a strong future. As people of action, all of us believe in Rotary's future, but we also know that there's a big gap between who we are as an organization today and who we need and want to be. So I know I've probably created more questions than answers in your minds. But it's important to look at all of the facets of this model and ask yourselves how that would apply in your region. How could you use it? How could we improve what clubs do using this new structure? Because let's face it, we all know that it's the clubs of the world that do the work of Rotary. In my mind, if all 47,000 clubs, Rotary and Rotaract, around the world were strong clubs, we could do 10 times the work for our communities than we do today. Because we all know we do have weak clubs around the world. They're not getting the help they need because district governors in the structure we have today are overwhelmed with administrative responsibilities. Let's share that role in different ways so we can bring help directly to the clubs of the world. So that's where we are. That's the outline. And I'd be more than happy to take any questions. And again, I really appreciate all of you coming to listen and start to understand what we would like to see as a change. This is not something that happens quickly. This will go to the next council, maybe just not to approve it, but to say, yes, we can do a pilot of this size, because this is a different kind of pilot than we've done in the past. We've already got a request from Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands to have a pilot. We've also got a request from Great Britain and Ireland to be a pilot. And we have two to four zones in the United States that want to be a pilot. And recently, we've got many parts of Africa that want to be a pilot. And the last meeting with Europe, they want to be a pilot. We can't do all those pilots. Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific Islands, they're ready to start. Give you an idea. To start that pilot, we want to meet, and I want to do this with, and members of the committee will meet first with their district governors, then with the district governor-elects and district governor nominees, then with each one of their 14 districts, then with clubs. And again, it's helping everybody understand this. That takes time by itself. That could take a year by itself, just to have all that discussion from Rotarians and Rotaractors of how to do it. And already they want to do a few things differently. And I think we have to keep our minds open to being flexible to make this work. So at the end of the day, we're talking about primarily, we want to regionalize the world, fewer regions based on culture. You know that today's zones are based on membership, pure and simple. And if you don't reach that membership number, the magic number, then other areas come in to join your zone. We don't want this to be arbitrary. We want the region to be so similar culturally that they understand what they need to do at a local level. At the same time, we don't want to lose our internationality of Rotary, because that does make us strong. So it's a balance. And that's why we're still looking at 45, 50 regions of the world. How do we do that? What makes sense? And as we do that, we then have to go to the regions and say, what do you think? Does this work? Does your country and that country, can they work together because you're similar in culture or not? This can't come from the top. This must come from the clubs of the world. So let me leave it at that and answer your questions as I can. And if I can't, I know Marcelo can.
Aqui, eu gostaria de falar, só para introduzir o debate, você faz a tradução, por favor, para o Barry. Eu, como diretor corrente, representando o Brasil e a América do Sul no board, tenho acompanhado esse debate há algum tempo. E eu me senti na obrigação de compartilhar essas informações com vocês. Como o presidente Barry bem ressaltou, essas são informações ainda incipientes, há um longo caminho a ser percorrido, existem obstáculos do Conselho de Legislação que terão que votar eventuais mudanças, mas eu não poderia, como diretor, esconder essa necessidade de mudança ou essa tendência de mudança que a nossa instituição está examinando. Como o presidente Barry bem falou, não é nada definitivo, mas eu me senti na obrigação de compartilhar essas informações e o Barry foi generoso o suficiente para aceder ao nosso convite com os líderes que fazem o futuro do Rotary no Brasil, que são vocês que se mostraram interessados pelo tópico. Então, agora, Carlos, por favor, você poderia administrar aí a sequência de perguntas e respostas, porque eu acho que essa é a parte mais interessante e o Barry é totalmente preparado para entabular essa conversação com os nossos rotarianos.
Diretor Mário, se me permite, e Carlos, gostaria de sugerir algo. Se a pessoa for fazer a pergunta em português, nós fazemos a tradução em inglês, ou melhor, se a pessoa for falar em inglês, nós fazemos a tradução simultânea em português. Agora, se a pergunta for feita em português, a gente pode traduzir depois em inglês para o Barry, falando mesmo, para ficar algo um pouco mais didático, até para ele entender. Pode ser, diretor?
Eu acho que fica bom
pode
assim.
ser consecutiva, né?
Isso, consecutiva, porque aí fica melhor dele entender. So, Barry, okay. So, Barry, you're doing the consecutive translation during the question and answers, okay? So you can understand better the question.
Thank you.
E claro, quem quiser fazer a pergunta em inglês, nós fazemos a tradução simultânea em português via ali os subtitles.
Bom, então vamos lá. Já temos aqui 3 mãos levantadas. Como disse no início, vamos pedir que as perguntas sejam breves para que o máximo de participantes consigam ter o seu momento de falar com o Barry. Então, o primeiro a falar é Antônio Alage, diretor Antônio Alage.
Hello, Barry. Hey, good to see you again.
Hello, Alage. Good to see you.
Yes, I like very much the streamlined model presented, very much. It fits an old idea that I have, that we have a gap in the district level that must be filled. And too much people talking around the world, too much positions. But my question is this: was it considered by the committee to preserve the current 3-level structure, adding the elected regional and sectorial councils with the function of interpreting regional needs, allowing the practice of subsidiary administration in which decisions could be taken at the lowest possible level, a kind of regionalization?
That is actually exactly what we want to accomplish, in that the region, we want to push the decision-making to the regional councils, because they understand that part of the world better than the international board does. So it's really important that they get involved at a regional level with things that are only applicable regionally.
Yeah, but preserving the current structure, or else there should be a command, a council chairman that will be who would you're not thinking of a council chairman?
Yeah, the board would have a chairman. There'd be 12 members of the board. They'd have a chairman, vice chair, and they would serve their terms in that position. So yes, they have a chair for the region.
Okay, because it was not clear on your diagram.
Sorry, yes, no, the board would function like a normal board with a chair, vice chair, treasurer, etc.
Because this was my main thought many years from now, is that we were lacking a a structure, a governance structure on the district, similar to what we have in the international and the club level, with a board chairman and a council or a board that could be interpret the regional aspect elected by these regions. I think it's a very good model, and I'm for it.
Great, thank you.
Muito bem, muito obrigado, Alage. Agora eu passo a palavra. Guilherme, a tradução parece que sumiu aqui, Guilherme.
Eu estou digitando aqui, peraí.
Ela sumiu aqui para a gente. Acho que tem que... Tá aparecendo para todo mundo aí? Tá? Tá aparecendo, então tá bom. Passo agora, então, a palavra para o diretor Pretoni. Ativa o som.
You're muted.
No. Mr. President, I think I would like to speak English, but to avoid any misunderstanding, I'm going to speak Portuguese. If he allowed, I'll complete by English.
Of course, no problem.
Ok. Primeiro, os Rotaractics Clubes, com essa organização, qual, na sua opinião, que eles serão integrados ou absorvidos pelos Rotary Clubes atuais? Eu acho, e tenho achado, e gostaria de ouvir a sua opinião, que a nova geração vai criar novos Rotaractic Clubes que se tornarão Rotary Clubes. Essa é a primeira pergunta. A segunda é que você apoia uma decisão que foi tomada que o rotaractiano pode ter mais de 30 anos? Isso não destrói ou não enfraquece o movimento e a integração dos jovens atualmente? Então, essas duas questões são, evidentemente, cruciais. Nós vamos ter um novo grupo de Rotary Clubs vindo de Rotaract Clubs. Eu gostaria de saber a sua visão sobre isso. E nós poderemos ter o fim do Rotaract no senso em que ele é, liberando a idade máxima de 30 anos. Eu gostaria de ouvir a sua opinião, presidente. Did you translate well?
Yes, absolutely. So,
Okay.
two questions from Director Pretoni. The first one is about Rotaract clubs, and these Rotaract clubs becoming Rotarians, becoming Rotary clubs, and what's their role during this future of Rotary. And the second question is about age. Isn't it dangerous to allow Rotaractors with more than 30 years old to be part of Rotaract? Isn't that dangerous for the future of the organization?
That's the two questions? Oh, Bertoni, you asked easy questions this time.
Well, of course, I have to do it.
Thank you. Now, keep in mind, when we began the change for Rotaract, Rotaract clubs became members of Rotary International. So they will be considered on the same level as a Rotary club. The idea here is that we don't eliminate Rotaract clubs. If anything, we strengthen them. And we don't want them to turn into Rotary clubs. We want them to keep their personalities and evolve into Rotary clubs. But we want them to have the opportunity of leadership in the Rotary organization. I think we all know now that Rotaractors have been asked to sit on every level of the organization. So what are we doing? We're giving them exposure. We're giving them opportunity to develop their leadership skills. That all should continue. What some districts around the world, and this is a fact, are already putting Rotaractors on district committees. I know one district that has an assistant governor who's a Rotaractor. They're already involving Rotaract, and that is the kind of respect that we want to give to Rotaractors and Rotaract clubs. So that's very much a part of our plan going forward, that they're an important and integral part of the organization. As far as the age, the intent of the age change, we still want individuals to join Rotaract clubs between 18 and 30. That's the intent. But we know that 30 is arbitrary. Some individuals, they're ready at 30 to join a Rotary club. Others, they need another year or 2 or 3 or 4 to get their professional life, to get their personal life, to have their babies, to be able to handle work, family, and Rotary. At that age, that's a challenge. So some need a little longer. Now, I know what some Rotarians around the world, I know one who's 60 who has applied to be a member of a Rotaract club. That's not the intent, okay? Please. You know, Rotarians love to challenge us, but it's in the hands of the Rotaract club to make those decisions. Part of the beauty here is we've been flexible. We've said, Rotaract clubs, this is now what you can do. And if you don't like it, keep the same ages, but don't change your Rotaract personalities, but work closer with Rotary clubs. And if you're not quite ready to join, but the important point is when you are ready, you don't leave the organization. You join a Rotary club or you start a new Rotary club. We need them for the long term. And we've been very bad at that. Before we started this 2 years ago, less than 4% of Rotaractors joined Rotary. That's out of 250,000. That's what, maybe 10,000 people joined Rotary clubs. That was our mistake. We were making that wrong. We want to change that. So let's help them to find a way to join Rotary in the long term. So hopefully that answered your questions.
Mr. President, if I can complete, I was a professor retired from university. And I lived with the young people up to 22 years old during 40 years. And my feeling, I always support the youth. I always support that our future depends on the behavior of the youth people. And then we cannot, in my opinion, we cannot to put any obstacle for the independence of the young people. First, second, we cannot allow to have an influence about the older age to influence the creation of renovation that the young people has. Because looking to our organization, I believe and I feel that the Rotaractors will bring through their minds a lot of good suggestions to us, our senior leaders. Then it's my question and concern about the 2 questions that I made to you. I don't know if you could make more some addend about what I said right now. I thank you for attention.
Well,
Let me translate your answer first, please.
Oh,
okay. Então, respondendo ao diretor Pretoni, o presidente Barry disse que nós temos em mente que os nossos rotaractianos devem permanecer rotaractianos. Eles não podem mudar a personalidade dos clubes de Rotaract. Nós não queremos eliminar eles, mas nós queremos integrar os rotaractianos na nossa comunidade rotária e principalmente nos nossos cargos de liderança. É justamente por isso que nós estamos nesse processo. Inclusive, eu sei de distritos que já estão colocando rotaractianos como governadores assistentes. desses distritos. Então, dando a oportunidade desses jovens de participarem das nossas posições de liderança em Rotary. A idade sobre 18 e 30 anos, o presidente Barry diz que a idade ideal que nós pensamos é que, de fato, seja 18 a 30 anos de idade. Todavia, sabemos que existem jovens que, quando completam seus 30 anos, ainda não estão prontos a ingressar em um clube de Rotary. Eles querem ter os seus filhos, querem conseguir uma estabilidade financeira e, portanto, ainda não estão prontos. Assim como nós sabemos que existem jovens de 30 anos ou menos que já estão prontos para entrarem em um Rotary Club. E aí está o grande ponto da elevação do Rotary, que começou há 4 anos atrás, porque naquela época somente 4% dos nossos jovens ingressavam em um Rotary Club. Então a ideia toda é baseada em não perder a juventude, para que essa juventude possa fortalecer o nosso futuro.
Did you translate my last comment?
Diretor, pode, se o senhor
Não,
quiser fazer
você traduziu em português o que eu comentei com ele posteriormente?
Não, o senhor pode falar em português para.
Olha, o que eu disse ao presidente foi o seguinte: na experiência toda de tratar com jovens, eu sempre apoiei os jovens. Sempre apoiei. Nós não poderíamos, em hipótese alguma, criar qualquer dificuldade, ou, não digo intimidação, mas alguma coisa que bloqueasse a criatividade do jovem, a ação do jovem, que às vezes não bate com o pessoal sênior. Esse é o primeiro ponto. O segundo ponto é que realmente seria muito estranho você, como ele próprio disse, haver um Rotaract com 60 anos de idade. Então, a coisa complica um pouco e eu acredito que as coisas vão ser permeáveis. Agora, sobre a questão da idade, eu orgulhosamente, o nosso diretor também, e outros que estão aí, eu entrei em Rotary com 31 anos de idade, casado e com 3 filhos. Eu acho que isso não mudou muito, na minha opinião. Tá?
You know, I think, Bertoni, we're on the same page. The committee is thinking the same way you are. We need to engage and encourage our youth so that they feel respected and they feel a part of the organization.
Okay, that's fine.
We've made a big difference with that, with what we've done in the last 2 years. Just imagine, when we started 2 years ago, they had 7,500 Rotaract clubs. Today, they have 11,500. They've almost gone up by 50%.
I see.
They are getting much more engaged in Rotary.
Okay, very good.
Então, traduzindo a parte final da fala do Barry, respondendo a segunda pergunta do Pretoni, é que nós estamos na mesma página. Nós queremos apoiar a juventude e tornar os jovens relevantes na nossa organização. É só ver que nós crescemos, o Rotaract cresceu aproximadamente 15% desde que esse processo começou. So, Barry, we are doing consecutive translation now, okay?
Sorry, Guilherme.
No, that's fine.
Muito bem. Agora, então, eu passo a palavra para Alberto Palombo. 1 minuto para a sua pergunta, Alberto. Pronto, pode falar.
Well, thank you very much, President Barry, for sharing this proposal with us. Now, you sold me off because I was one of those above 60 that wanted to join Rotaract. So, but in a more serious note, in my professional life, I have had to deal with organizational changes, and definitely I concur with your presentation that the streamlining of Rotary is due, and that if we want to keep feasible this organization that we love, as far as community service, we need to keep an eye on societal change, and not to mention the changes with the new normal, and the fact that we are meeting through these ways is proof of that. And so I, for one, I would like to be part of the pilot. So how would a club be part pilot of this program, experiment, Are there any procedures and criteria already established for becoming a part of the pilot? And would it be at the club, district, or several district levels in the case of a country as big as Brazil? And just to context, about 10 years ago, we had the vision of the future, if you remember, that was much oriented towards the streamlining of the foundation. And Halash is here. I believe that he was part of that. But now we're talking about the changing Rotary as a whole. So how are we going to do this? How will we become part of this future?
It's a good question. Gui, you want to translate?
Sim, bom, a pergunta do companheiro Alberto Palombo é, primeiro, apoiando justamente a apresentação do Barry, apoiando esse apoio à juventude, apoiando essa construção do futuro do Rotary, e também ele está perguntando como um clube pode se tornar piloto desse novo modelo que o Barry apresentou. Então, basicamente isso.
E também de que, para contextualizar, devemos lembrar de que há 10 anos nós tivemos a visão do futuro, né? Que foi mudanças na fundação, dos subsídios, e que foi uma mudança na fundação, mas agora estamos falando da mudanças em toda a organização, né?
No, it's a good question. We were worried originally nobody would want to be a part of a pilot. And now we're getting a lot of requests from districts around the world. What I recommend is that as district governors, you ask yourselves, how can a number of our districts get together and start working together? And that alone is a beginning, because now you're starting to work as a group and not as district by district. With Australia, they come together as 14 districts. And by having that many districts, you've got to think of a different structure to make sure there's good communication amongst all of you. So the best way to start is to have a committee made up of what makes sense on a regional level in Brazil. Is it 2 regions? Is it 3 regions? Those are the kind of questions you've got to ask yourselves. And like I said, I'd put a committee together and start asking, would this work in Brazil? If it's 2 regions, 3 regions, and then you make the decisions the best way to do that. And then each one of those potential regions starts a committee to talk about it, so that every district gets involved in how to do it. Because let's face it, when we get to the day that we actually try this, there are those district governors who are not going to want to lose the power that they have as a district governor over one district. And that's going to take some discussion, because it shouldn't be about power. It shouldn't be about I. It should be about we. Let me stop there and let Gui translate.
Bom, então, a primeira parte da resposta do presidente Barry é que, primeiro, uma boa pergunta sobre os nossos pilotos. A minha orientação é que os governadores distritais se juntem e que esses governadores distritais comecem a pensar na comunicação e o que faz sentido para a região deles, aqui falando do Brasil. Por exemplo, na Austrália, nós temos 14 distritos, ou seja, 14 governadores distritais pensando em uma comunicação eficaz e efetiva na região deles, o que faz sentido para eles. No Brasil, nós podemos pensar em um comitê que avalie 1, 2 regiões, o que faz sentido para o Brasil. Esse é o grande ponto da questão. E também nós sabemos que existem governadores distritais que não vão querer, entre aspas, perder o poder diante do distrito. Então, nós precisamos pensar nisso também e adequar as nossas regiões.
Que não é tanto o eu, sino é o nós. Ele falou, fez ênfase nisso.
So when districts look at this, they need to start talking to each other about how that would work and the potential you have when you work together with 10 to 15 districts. I think of Australia as a country has a few enough districts that they become one region. Guess what? When they go to the government, they represent the whole country Rotary. That gives them power. That gives them strength. as opposed to one district, one district, one district. That gives us a lot more power to create partnerships around the world.
Vejam como, por exemplo, na Austrália, se nós juntarmos esses 14 distritos em uma única região, vejam o poder que essa região vai ter diante do governo, diante de outras organizações. Não é um indo falar, outro indo falar separadamente, mas sim um grupo unido, com uma boa comunicação, fazendo essas solicitações, sempre pensando no coletivo.
Excellent translation.
Muito bem, então vamos lá. Agora, a próxima pergunta é... Oi.
Posso fazer só uma observação?
Claro, Mário.
Just for the sake of information to everyone. When this submission of districts and zones that would be interested in trying the pilot, and I talked this over with Tom Thorfinson and a couple times, Brazil was in the list. And specifically, we should begin, in my understanding, with the state of São Paulo constituting one so-called region, which is pretty uniform in terms of culture, which is a basic guideline for setting up a section or a region. And of course, we didn't make it because, as Barry knows, we had some budget limitations to do the pilots at this early stage. But as a director, I volunteered that Brazil would be one of the first regions in the world. But of course, some other regions are more prepared from a change culture standpoint to move forward than we are. So I think the committee made the right decision in putting Australia and the British Islands before us. But we are on the list, just so that everyone knows.
Bom, e o diretor Mário acaba de informar, para conhecimento de todos, que o Brasil estava na lista, permanece na lista, e ele conversando com lideranças lá em Evanston e com o comitê, obviamente. Inclusive, ele destaca que o estado de São Paulo poderia ser uma região, juntando ali os distritos, mas, como o Barry sabe, nós tínhamos e temos um orçamento limitado para esses pilotos. E também sabemos que existem países, existem regiões mais preparadas, inclusive na cultura deles, para abraçar esse piloto. Basicamente isso, diretor.
Muito bem, posso continuar? Muito bem. Então, agora eu passo a palavra para a Cláudia Tarra. Você tem 1 minuto para uma pergunta objetiva, Cláudia.
Okay, I think that's a very interesting discussion, and I can see 2 points here. One is the importance of localization, being global and local at the same time. I appreciate that. And the second point, that's the question. And when we think about bringing in young people to the organization and bringing Rotaractians to the organization, have you thought about a mentoring program so that they would know what to do, what paths they would follow, who are going to be mentoring these young people? Because I think that the young people in our generation is completely different from young people in this generation right now. So what they want, what is meaningful to them, is really to be related to a cause, right? This is very important. So in our case, in my case, in my generation, in our generation, we were very much focused on making money, having children, and buying a house, but not this generation. So I think that we would have to think about a mentoring program for this generation, which is completely different, has a different mindset from what you're having right now. Have you thought about it?
Not only have I thought about it, but I speak about it quite often. It's really important that we start that mentoring process now. We don't have to wait for some change in structure. I ask every Rotary Club to begin mentoring our Rotaractors. And by the way, we should let them mentor us as well. It's a two-way street. we have that amazing experience, and I could share all the mistakes I've made in my life, and that'll help somebody else not make quite so many. But I want to hear what they have to say. Rotarians need to listen to our Rotaractors. They've got great ideas. They've got innovative ideas. So mentoring is critical to bringing Rotaract into Rotary, and it's got to be a major part of the program as we go forward with our structure, no question.
Então, traduzindo a pergunta da companheira Cláudia, uma pergunta de fato bastante interessante, e primeiro ela destaca a importância de, ao mesmo tempo de ser uma organização global, nós precisamos ser também uma organização regional, uma organização local, e a pergunta que ela faz ao Barry é o que o Barry pensa de um programa de mentoria, e ela destaca que as gerações são diferentes. A geração passada pensando em comprar uma casa, ganhar dinheiro, e agora uma geração que precisa ter uma causa para sobreviver, luta por uma causa, e que de fato essa geração precisa de uma mentoria e pergunta quem seriam, né, os bons mentores para essa nova geração. E o Barry concorda com ela e diz que esse programa de mentoria já deve começar, não depende só desse programa do futuro do Rotary, mas deve começar. Ele incentiva os rotarianos para que sejam mentores dos rotaractianos e que os rotaractianos sejam mentores dos rotarianos, justamente porque nós precisamos escutar o Rotaract, precisamos escutar a juventude para que nós possamos crescer juntos.
Muito bem. Agora, a próxima pergunta, eu passo a palavra para o coordenador do Rotary, Hugo Doria.
Presidente Barry, dizer que é muito esperançoso para todos nós sabermos que existe no Rotary gente muito séria, claro que o Rotary é cheio de gente séria, mas assim um grupo pensando sobre o futuro do Rotary e sobre que caminho nós devemos trilhar para o futuro do Rotary. Sabemos também que os resultados que nós estamos obtendo comprovam na prática que precisamos mudar e ainda de uma maneira mais acelerada. Sabemos que já estamos mudando, mas ainda não conseguindo alcançar a resposta necessária para indicar um futuro promissor para a nossa organização. Sabemos também que toda mudança que tem acontecido demora muito de chegar no lugar onde ela precisa operar, que é na base dos clubes, ou seja, temos aí uma dificuldade imensa de comunicação. Obviamente, o comitê está pensando em linhas gerais, e aplicar através dos pilotos é o caminho certo. Dentro disto, o comitê também está pensando em táticas que provoquem a aceleração desta comunicação do que é necessário ser pensado em termos de mudança, na comunicação dessa mudança para que ela aconteça numa velocidade necessária lá onde tudo acontece no clube.
So, translating the question from Rotary Coordinator Hugo Doria, it's very good to know that Rotary have people thinking about the future of our organization, and we know that we are changing and we need change to grow up Rotary and to have more numbers. And his question is about clubs, how we are going to deliver the information about Future of Rotary. And we know that today Rotary is not the fastest organization delivering the information to the clubs. So is the committee thinking about how we can deliver the message where everything happens, our clubs?
Yeah, and that, like a lot of things in Rotary, that's a big part of our challenge, is communicating so that Rotarians around the world can start thinking about a different way of structure. But let's keep in mind, many Rotary and Rotaract clubs don't even know what Rotary International does. They don't even see a district governor, Rotaract clubs. And Rotary clubs, they don't go to the club meeting when the governor comes. Okay, there is a disconnect now. What we want to do is fix that disconnect by having the section leaders who are right there with the clubs to help the clubs understand what their needs are. You go to some clubs today, they say, we're fine, we don't need any change. But somebody from outside can come in and say nicely, Yes, maybe if you did this different, maybe if you knew about this program in Rotary, you'd like to do it. We need that kind of information on the ground with Rotarians. Now, to get this message to them, what we want to do first is get to the leaders of Rotary like yourselves. Because once you start understanding it, then the districts can start understanding it, then the clubs can start understanding it. Remember I said when we started, this is a long-term goal. And to communicate this effectively is going to take time. A lot of people are going to wait until we've run a pilot program and they can see how it worked. We can say that out of 1,000 clubs, 500 are much better than they were. And this is how, because we want to measure everything we do in the pilot so that we can show the success or the failure of what we've done. So the communication is critical. And we've got to make sure we're always working on that and aware of that. Right now, the committee members, well, myself, I'm talking to 3 or 4 groups a week. And many other members of the committee are also doing that. So, but we can't reach every member of the world. What I need to do is reach leaders like yourselves who can then understand and talk about it.
Bom, o grande desafio é a comunicação. Muitos de nossos rotaractianos nem sabem o que é um governador distrital, muito menos o que o Rotary Internacional faz. Ou rotarianos que não vão, por exemplo, na visita oficial do seu governador. Precisamos consertar essa conexão entre o Rotary e os seus associados, e nós faremos isso através das lideranças regionais. Nós precisamos entregar essas informações de mudança às nossas lideranças regionais. Portanto, é isso que nós estamos fazendo aqui. Nós queremos entregar primeiro essa mensagem a vocês, líderes, para que vocês entendam, compreendam a mudança e passem aos associados. Com isso, e eu sei, vai demorar algum tempo, não é algo que a gente vai atingir em um plano rápido, mas nós precisamos sim de tempo. Primeiro, até para nós termos os números, as avaliações dos nossos programas pilotos. Depois que nós tivermos os pilotos, nós iremos compreender melhor se vai dar certo ou não. Eu mesmo tenho me reunido com 3 ou 4 grupos diferentes por semana, só para falar sobre essas mudanças, e é assim que nós iremos alcançá-las.
Muito bem. Agora eu passo a palavra para o curador da Fundação Rotária, Marcelo Aike.
Boa noite a todos. Eu não vou fazer uma pergunta, eu vou fazer só um comentário em relação ao trabalho do comitê. Primeiro que eu quero compartilhar com vocês é que esse comitê está trabalhando há 3 anos, estamos ingressando agora para o 4º ano, né? E esse modelo que o Barry apresentou é um modelo que foi consequente ao estudo de vários cenários de mudança. Nós chegamos a trabalhar com 4 cenários de mudança. Foi um trabalho muito intenso, a nível de consultorias, a nível de modelagem, e nós chegamos nessa proposta como uma proposta mais interessante, enfim. Outro aspecto que eu queria comentar também é que o grande objetivo dessa proposta, ele está focado principalmente na questão da eficiência da gestão. Vamos dizer assim, hoje todos os nossos aspectos operacionais, todas as nossas métricas, todos os nossos resultados, eles devem ser revistos, né? No sentido da gente ter uma gestão eficiente, né? Não é um modelo puramente de regionalização, que fique claro isso. Logicamente, vai haver uma reorganização regional, né? Mas o modelo é maior do que a discussão da regionalização. O modelo é uma discussão da eficiência, né? Outro aspecto importante também, eu não sei se a tradução se vai ficar muita coisa, né? Outro aspecto importante é que os países que se colocaram como países piloto, por exemplo, a Austrália, ela já está há muitos anos discutindo isso, ela tem 3 anos já de trabalhos, né, de comitês e de envolvimento, engajamento, né? Então, a própria colocação de alguns países piloto, né, advém de que realmente existe uma maturidade numa postura de mudança, né? Geralmente, quando a gente fala quem quer mudar, 100% falam sim. Mas quando a gente fala como mudar, aí a gente não sabe o que vai sair, né? Então, se efetivamente o Brasil tiver interesse, né, disposição, né, nós temos que sempre vislumbrar um plano de elaboração de uma proposta, de engajamento, porque é um processo bastante complexo, né? Então, basicamente, eu queria só complementar com esses conceitos. Tá? Obrigado.
So, from our trustee Marcelo Hayek, about the committee work, we are working during the past 3 years about these changes. We have analyzed more than 4 different types of change in Rotary. So we are, with a lot of hard work, we got this one, and we think that this model is the best one right now. It's not just about our regional leaders, but it's about efficiency. It's about having a better and more efficient Rotary. About the pilot, Australia is working with us since the beginning, so they are ready and open for change. It's different to ask if you ask, do you want to change? Everyone will say yes, but when we put the real changes, it's not everyone that agrees and are ready for change. So that's about pilot, and Brazil is really real interested about being a pilot. We have to analyze the numbers and talk with our leaders to know more about their opinions.
Thank you, Marcelo.
Muito bem. Então, continuando, a próxima pergunta e a última pergunta da noite de hoje é para Marco Ginciene. Você tem 1 minuto para uma pergunta objetiva.
Hi, Barry. Thank you very much for your time and sharing with us this new structure. My question is not that philosophical one, but just to be practical. Taking the slide where you were showing the new structure, I saw on the very bottom 3 boxes, and with the clubs and Rotaract and no club participants. And I didn't see any solid line connecting Rotaract to the regional structure. Probably you show up so fast that I couldn't see, but I didn't see any solid line there. And then my question is, how the guys can be, let's say, having a relationship with the regional structures if they are not connected. The only connection we have is there is only Rotarians with the clubs and then going up. And boy, we need to have some, at my case, okay, I don't know if everybody understood correctly, but just to clarify, how does it work?
Sure, no, I appreciate that. And
Barry, may I translate? Sorry
yes.
to interrupt you.
Sorry.
A pergunta do companheiro Marco é justamente sobre aquele slide onde Barry mostrou a estrutura das mudanças. Ele não conseguiu ver uma linha sólida conectando as lideranças regionais com os Rotaractianos. Então, como que nós iremos conectar esse público do Rotaract com essas novas posições de liderança e as lideranças como um todo?
Yeah, I apologize if I went too fast with the slides. Trying to go through them all, you never quite know which ones to do and not do. The bottom 3 boxes all report up the chain equally. So Rotaract goes up to the section leader, Rotary goes to the section leader, and non-club participant goes to the section leader. So the section leader, who has 10 to 30 clubs, will have a mix of Rotaract, Rotary, and non-club. I need to explain the non-club. Rotary is about to do a pilot and I think it's in Houston, Texas, where we invite members of the public to join Rotary by going online not by joining a club, and they do service by finding whatever club's projects are out there. So they're not part of a specific club. Whether that'll work or not, I don't know, but we wanted it on the chart so that if it does come through, then they're a part of this. And that section leader needs to be responsible for those individuals on the ground who do the work of Rotary. That's the intent. So Rotaract and Rotary are equal there, absolutely.
Bom, respondendo a pergunta, primeiro eu peço desculpas se eu passei os slides muito rápido, eu nunca sei qual eu devo passar mais devagar e qual mais rápido, mas enfim, as 3 caixinhas ali de liderança, que são Rotary Clube, Rotaract Clube e um clube que não é clube, que daqui a pouquinho eu vou explicar, eles estão 100% conectados em nossas lideranças regionais. Os líderes regionais vão ter por volta de 10 a 30 clubes. Clubes, eu digo, Rotary Clube, Rotaract Clube, e essa nova modalidade, que não é um clube onde você se associa de fato, mas é um clube onde você vai online, vê as ações de algum Rotary Clube na sua comunidade e você aceita ali o desafio daquele projeto, daquela ação. Nós já temos um piloto dessa nova modalidade de clube que acontece no Texas, nos Estados Unidos. Então, essas 3 modalidades estão 100% conectadas sob a vigilância dos nossos líderes regionais.
Muito bem.
Carlos,
Então,
posso fazer uma última pergunta?
Sim, agora eu ia passar a palavra para você, diretor. Você já faz as considerações finais, passa também para o BR fazer as deles, e assim finalizaremos o programa.
Barry, I have a question. We know that in our Rotary, quotes, career, there's a lot of politics. There's a lot of personal appointments. There's a lot of payback for, that shouldn't happen, but it does. How do you think this proposed model addresses merit over personal favor? Do you think that we're going to be better off with this new model when we are talking about merit over personal favors?
Traduzindo a pergunta do diretor Mário, que não é uma pergunta fácil, mas nós sabemos que existem muitas pessoas que estão preocupadas mais com a política e com o seu próprio narciso. Então, ele pergunta ao Barry como que nós iremos solucionar isso, colocando o mérito à frente das questões pessoais.
Mario, that's a really good question, because we all know, yes, there are politics in Rotary. Quite often, a leader appoints the people they know, the people they're friends with, and good people get left behind. That's a major reason why we want elections. Now, elections have their own problems, don't get me wrong. Okay, I totally understand that. But we want the clubs to have a say in who those section leaders are. We want the clubs to have a say in who are the regional board, the chairman, vice chair, all 12 members of that board should be elected by the members. Like I said, I know that's a challenge, but it gives an equal voice to the clubs. By having an equal voice, perhaps they will then take a stronger role in the region, where some clubs today, they don't feel a part of the district. They don't have an election. A nominating committee makes a decision. They just don't feel a part of what we do. By having a voice, perhaps they'll have a say. And if they can see that we're not making appointments because of who we're friends with, then maybe there's a little more objectivity. Maybe we get a little more activity from many of our Rotarians. And I have to say, our Rotaractors won't stand back and just watch the politics. they will air their opinions very clearly. And we need to listen to those opinions. So yes, we've talked a lot about the politics of Rotary and how this structure should be created to help to avoid politics. Is it perfect? Probably not. But by piloting it, we can see what parts of that really help with that particular aspect.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you for the, I'm sorry, Guy. Do your job.
Thank you.
You're getting very well paid to perform it.
Yes, indeed. Sim, nós sabemos que existem decisões políticas no Rotary e nós queremos evitá-las. Não é somente, e não melhor, não é sobre indicar os nossos amigos, de forma alguma. É sobre entregar cargos para as pessoas que de fato merecem, e é com isso que nós queremos ter, com esse novo modelo que nós estamos sugerindo. Nós queremos que esses líderes sejam escolhidos pelos próprios clubes, empoderar os clubes, dar voz aos clubes para que esses possam eleger os nossos líderes. E assim, aqueles clubes que estão distantes da região, do distrito, que não votam, que não têm um comitê para indicação, eles vão se sentir parte, de fato, da nossa organização. Sabemos que essa eleição não é perfeita, e é justamente por isso que nós temos e estamos formando os nossos pilotos. Através da experiência dos pilotos, nós iremos descobrir como nós poderemos solucionar esses problemas e sempre nos afastar das decisões políticas que existem no Rotary, infelizmente.
Well, to end this, of course, the closure is up to the president, according to the protocol. But I would like to thank everyone involved, Carlos, Roberta, Guilherme, QUEVEDO, Marcelo, everyone that got involved into this discussion. I think it was enlightening to know what's coming ahead of us, and especially that make Brazilian Rotarians aware that we have a word, we have a saying in conducting this future of Rotary, especially that we have one man on board, Marcelo, that's part of the committee. But I really appreciate all of you joining us this evening for this type of discussion. I think the future of Rotary is too important to be left up to just the committee. So I appreciate that everyone shares their comments, and you know, we may have some influence. Thank you very much to everyone involved, and especially to my close friend, President Barry RASSIN. Thank you, Barry. We appreciate your time and your knowledge, and your sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you, Mario. And I really appreciate everybody, because each one of us need to be proactive in talking about our future, so we end up in the right place that's relevant to today's world. And I'd like to say a special thank you to Mario for inviting me, and for Guy for translating. I don't know how you do it. I just admire that tremendously. And you're still an interactor? Amazing. I blows my mind.
Not until July. July will be going to Rotary.
All right, good. Don't give up on me, because Guy has translated many times for me and clearly does a fabulous job. He always makes my stories sound interesting. And of course, Marcelo, and I got to say again, he's a really great member of the committee, and I really appreciate his wisdom and always sharing it. In the middle of the night, sometimes I'll get a note with some wise thing he must have been thinking about. I appreciate it. So thank you all. Appreciate what you do.
Muito bem, pessoal. Muito bom.
Barry, just a second. I would like to thank Ricardo Quevedo, who very much helped us tonight. He's a Rotary representative, a fantastic guy, and he's helping us a lot here in Brazil.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Great to see you.
Okay, thank you all.
Muito bem, pessoal.
Aquele tchau.
acabamos a nossa reunião, o nosso encontro, nosso agradecimento a todos, como já o diretor Mário já agradeceu.
Agora vem, né?
O Guilherme já agradeceu também, Barry e Hassan. Muito obrigado a todos. Então, todo mundo liga o seu som para dar aquele tchau gigante para todo mundo aparecer na tela.
Tchau.
Tchau, tchau.
Tchau.
Gente, excelente.
Parabéns,
Tchau.
We see you again on the
Obrigado,
25th.
Quevedo.
Muito bom mesmo. Parabéns. Bom, parabéns.
Tchau, pessoal. Tchau.
Fazer se eu tivesse falado antes.
Tchau. Vamos lá, contagem regressiva para desligar a reunião. Começando em 3. Vamos lá, todo mundo. 3, 2, 1. Tchau. Até a próxima. Obrigado a todos. Obrigado, diretor Mário. Obrigado a todos.
Abrazo fuerte para el presidente de Paraguay.
Tchau, Paraguai.
Carinhos, carinhos.
María, abrazos.
Gracias.